Okay, hello everybody. We're gonna do this is a pretty big undertaking. We're going to do the light extraction method of worms to get kind of a weight. I mean, I know it's not going to be perfect. We're going to try to get a weight on the worms that are in the guy's bin after a year that we started with 250 worms. So anything I pick out, I'm going to throw it in a corner and hope that it dives. So that's all that's left of the banana that we've been feeding. There's a couple worms left in there, but you know, we're not going to be able to get them all. This is just a really big bin of worms, and I mean, yeah, I know other people got bigger bins. I look at Hunter's wedge, and my mind just goes wild because there's so many worms in that bin. But we're just going to do our best to get a weight. This is going to be probably a long video, so I might as well say it now because I think people are going to get bored and skip ahead and do things. I know there's probably people really interested in how many worms are in here, but I bet you people get bored and leave. So I'm going to say like, subscribe, share, comment. Send me your comments. I love your comments. Comments are awesome. That's one of the most exciting things that comes with this deal is talking to everyone from all over. We're going to let that go down. We're going to take the worms out of here. There's our second banana. See the banana? They really... I'm just going to get the worms out of it. I'm going to... Or most of the worms, I mean. We're going to do a reset on this bin when we're done. We're going to feed it. We're going to rebed it. We're just going to set her all up for having at her. So it takes a little while for everything to get going, and then once it gets going, we got a really bright light here, really bright. So we're gonna let her sit, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pause it while the worms go down, and then I'm gonna come back and I'll restart, kind of just so that this video is not 2 hours long. Okay, we're back at it. Just fluff it along. I think this is kind of a big undertaking. This is going to take some time. I'm guessing this is going to take a couple hours, so that's why I'm pausing it in the meantime to save you guys the agony of just sitting there looking at a bin, because it takes some time. But with that said, once you get going, it starts kind of speeding up a little. We're not going to get them all, and I know we're not going to get them all. So this is just to give us a somewhat rough idea of what happens when you put 250 worms in a bin this size and let her rip for a year. It's been wildly a lot of fun. This has been my first bin, my learning bin. This is what I started with when I got my worms. And yep, real good population in it. Really active bin. And I've kind of learned how I want to do it along the way, right? Like, I've learned I don't want to do leaves in here because I think I would bring a lot of stuff from the outside world in. A whack, and I do mean a whack of cocoons in this bin. So what I do is I start from that side, I kind of skim along the way, then I leave it here for a while for the worms to get tired of the bright light, and they head back into the pile. And you just continue doing that. Alright, gonna pause you for a bit. We'll come back in a few minutes. Alrighty, we're back. So basically, just kind of continue. If you see something, throw it to the back. And really, I don't know, there's a certain amount of anal retentiveness that a person can go to before you really say, we just want a rough weight. Grape sticks take a really long time to disappear in a worm bin, but I'm sure eventually, like most woody things, they will. You just take time. Piece of plastic. There. Piece of plastic. You know, as much as you try, before I shred the paper and cardboard in my house, I still get plastic through the shredder. And I'm not gonna lose a bunch of sleep over it. It is what it is, right? Like, I'm just saying, you try to keep everything on the up and up, and it don't always work. It's not that I don't try. Because I really do. I try to keep things so that they go into the bin the way they should. And no matter how hard you try, they stuff still comes through. And that's the reverse too. No matter how hard you try to get all of the worms out, I mean, you can really try hard. You won't. You will miss some. And I will guarantee that. So, don't beat yourself up about it. Because it's part of the game. And we're not going to get every worm on that side. We're not going to. You're just not going to. There's no possible way. In fact, at the speed that this takes, sometimes I think there might be worms hatching over here in the time that it takes for us to do the light method, because it takes time. And I don't know if you're seeing this, but we're getting down into the worms already. I said it in my last video, and I don't know if everyone realizes it. At any point in time, you can zoom in on while you're watching this. You can zoom into what we're doing and maybe see it a little better on some of the things. You're not. I don't know if you know that you don't have to stay as distant as what I've got my camera set up. Just sharing a little, maybe useless information. Maybe you already knew that. I didn't till a little while back, and then I thought, well, I got to share that one of these days, and then never seemed to. But yes, you can zoom in whenever you like. You can zoom in, you can zoom back out. So see, we're getting some little worms here. And how are you going to get all them little guys separated out of this, right? Like, there's one right there. There comes a point of you're just not going to win. All right, so we're just going to keep ruffling stuff along the top. And they're going to keep going down like worms do. Big stuff like seeds and whatnot, I guess we can just take that out of the roadie. We're doing this anyways. We're standing here. We might as well do something. It's going to take some time. Like, that's why I'm pausing you in between this, so that it's not so long for you, because this is probably going to be a couple hours. I'm confident that it's not going to be short term. It's not. If I was to just let her record, I think we'd hit the end of my memory pretty fast on my phone. And I got a couple hours memory, but what I'm saying is there's a lot of stuff to go through. So as I pause you, I'm just doing other stuff around up here, getting stuff ready to set up. I got my scale up here. I've got some more molasses water set up here, ready to go. I've got my bins put away. That's some sort of a pit. That is something I can't remember what, or is it just a stem off of a... That's a stem. It's still very hard. I don't know when it went in there, but it's still in there. That is a corn cob piece. Haven't put corn in since last August or September, whatever it was. So, gives you an idea how long it takes for them to get through it. There's a couple worms on this onion. And that's what I'm trying to tell people is there's so many people on YouTube that are just saying, don't feed onion. Don't feed onion. Don't feed just onion. Would be my stance on that. If you feed just onion, you could maybe get too much sulfur in your bin. And that can be detrimental to your worm population. But with that said, I feed onion and they go to it and they use it. It maybe takes a while, but we use a lot of onions here, so it's kind of nice to put them in the bin and let them add to our flora and fauna. I guess in moderation, right? Do things in moderation. Don't just give them just onion. I gotta be honest, as a human, if you came to my place and I just fed you onions, you wouldn't be happy. But is it the worms that aren't happy, or is it the people that aren't happy with the smell of the onion because they can't take care of it as much as you put in there, and then it starts smelling like bad onion? And then you come up with the great conclusion that worms don't like onion, when really all you did was you gave them too much. You gave them more than they could reasonably take care of with the population that they have. I'm noticing a lot of myth busting going on in my... There's another piece of corn cob, and there's a baby worm in there. A couple baby worms in there. So, you know, as little as those chunks get, the little guys still go after it, and they still make it. They still use it. So we've got a fair bit out of here. Not out, but away from, like, the worms are all mostly over here. It is a slow process. And I would not do this if it wasn't for my curiosity and wanting to set up a video about how many worms are in this bin after a year. And okay, that comes with a caveat. How many worms are in this bin after a year? And I started my grandson's worm bin. At that time, I might have been getting to 1,000 worms, and I probably took like 100 out, or maybe 50. But it was a substantial proportion of the population at the time that I took out to start his worm bin. So I set it back there. And then after Christmas, right after Christmas, in January, I gave my niece, or well, we call her my niece, but she's my cousin's daughter. But she calls me uncle. I call her my niece. She wanted worms, so we came up and we grabbed like 4 handfuls out of the feed zone. So that was a pretty good population to go to her bin, and I don't mind. But the caveat I'm talking about is this isn't truly how many worms you get out of 250 worms in a year, because I have 6 other red wiggler bins, 7 other red wiggler bins, and the breeder bin with all of those red wiggler. So there's 8 other bins that all have worms that originated out of this bin. So had everything been returned to this bin, there would be a massive difference in the population. And I don't have a problem with that. I don't think I'm trying to whine or anything. I love setting them up, and I love giving them away to people that want them. It's all good. Not a big deal. I'm just saying the population in this is not. This isn't truly what you could get out of 250 worms. That's the caveat. This is not truly what you would get out of 250 worms. Because I know my grandson, when we took him back to BC, we took his worms back right after we took him out of here. So 50, 60 worms. And he's showing us pictures via video calls of his worm bin, and it is just moving. So he's got a very good population out of his 60 worms, and he's never taken any out to give to anybody. And that was in July last year, end of August, middle of August, somewhere in there. July, August last year, I guess we brought him back. And so he hasn't had a full year on here yet. He's got a bin this size, because that's what I bought him when we got out there and helped set him up. So he's got a big bin, and he said it's just moving. He loves his worms. His mom doesn't. But that's okay. Boys should have projects like this. Little boys should have projects like this. But they're better off being interested in worms than a lot of other things that they could get interested in, right? I mean, he's only 7, but it's a different world than when we grew up. We dug for worms. Now these poor kids got no place to dig. I don't know if you are getting the gist of how easygoing these red wigglers are. Like, doing this with my night crawlers, they would be climbing up the side of the bin, and they get a little more ticked off a little faster, I guess. What I'm trying to put forward. And yeah, these guys are pretty easy going. All right, we're gonna pause it for a bit. Whatever that is, it's got a worm in it. Doesn't seem real happy that I was kicking them out of it either. Okay, I'll pause it for a bit and come back after they drop down further. We're back. Giving them a little chance to go down. So you just fluff along the top. All along. You know, it's like running a bulldozer, I guess. You just, if you dig your blade in right at the back, you're going to be in trouble by the time you get to where you want to go, right? So you got to just skim. And, yeah. Yeah, I've been just taking plastic out as I see it. And the worms will go around it, right? Like, it's not... Doesn't seem to bother them, but it seems to bother us. There's a little worm in an onion peel. So I guess this is about as invasive as I want to get to this bin. This is probably a stressful day for the worms. Doing this. But we're going to do it once, and we're going to do what we need to do. And then we're going to feed them, rebed them, and leave them alone. You know, we got cattle that spend most of their time out in the field and they don't get disturbed, but on it once or twice a year they have to come through the corral and they got to get their shot for vaccine, and they got to get their maybe their brand put on them so that if somebody steals them, we can get them back. It's the same idea. You do your once in a while stressful day, and then you do your best to make them comfortable for the rest of the time that they're here. So, and I don't know if you notice this, but on a big spot like this, I do it in waves. So I got a wave going down here, right along the edge. Then I separate from the edge. And the worms, the light hits them, they go that way, because it's the shortest distance to cover, right? There's some worms, I'll just push them back towards the pile. And just, okay, so that's one wave. I let that sit there to see if anything comes out, because now it's fairly exposed to the light. Now I just move this one closer. And I try to go down to where I start seeing worms. And then I leave that exposed, and I just move this one ahead a bit. So I'm not just doing one area, right? I'm doing multiple areas. Here's a piece of plastic. I pulled out quite a few. And then I go to the back and I start another wave. It's not going to be a big one because you got to work your way through it. There's another piece of plastic. I'm getting a lot of plastic pieces out. You can come back up here, move your front wave, see a worm, throw it to the back. Yeah, like I say, it's probably a stressful day for him. I know it would be for me if I was in this bin. And it kind of is a stressful day for me. I don't want. The reason I'm doing this is to get a video, right? For you guys all to see. And it's useless information, but it's information nonetheless of how many worms I got on my bin. Because people ask me, how many worms do you have in your bin? Well, I think there's 4,000. I don't know. I have no clue. We're going to find out. Like I say, it's not what you would call an accurate thing of what you're going to get out of 250 worms.